So some of you might remember this game because I already made a video about it a while back, and since then the developers were nice enough to send me a key to the full game. So this video is going to be about the full game. Welcome to Fate of Kai. The main character of our story is Kai, who one day wakes up and finds a treasure chest. Which is not as fun as it sounds, because the treasure chest decides to chain itself to Kai. Yeah. And now he needs to carry it to the castle, which just so happens to be atop a giant mountain. And if this wasn't enough already, there is also some evil shadow guy following him. But don't worry, because we are here to help him by solving puzzles, which is the majority of the gameplay. It is basically a puzzle game that looks like a picture book. So let's talk about the art for a second, because it is beautiful, which is probably the main appeal of the game, and also the puzzles and the story. But it doesn't hurt that it looks good. It's really well drawn. I mean, you guys can see it on the video. And it has an advantage over other types of games, because this one has 2D illustrations. So the characters don't have to move, they don't have to be 3D, so they can make it look a lot nicer without spending that much money or that many man-hours, which I think this game really benefits from. It also uses the art and the pictures and what you can see for the puzzles really intelligently. And I really don't want to spoil too many of the puzzles, because the puzzles are the main point of the game, but I'm going to tell you one of them just to illustrate how the game works and how it uses the art as part of the puzzle. So in chapter 3 you are playing a card game, and behind your opponent there is a mirror, but the mirror is not low enough for you to see his cards. So that doesn't really help you. But it is possible to get the mirror to drop lower, and then you are able to see your opponent's cards, and you can pick your own card based on that. These are the kinds of little things that you need to notice when you are playing the game. The way you choose to do something in this game is that you put an idea sticker in a thought bubble, and then the character that you gave the idea to will act based on the idea. But you don't already have the stickers available to you. You need to collect them from other pages and take them and place them somewhere else. And that is a major part of the game, being able to find the different stickers that you will need to progress in the game. The puzzles are also very well integrated into the story. You don't just walk around in the game and find a puzzle minigame. The puzzle is the story and the story is the puzzle. There was only one puzzle that frustrated me a little bit, because in that one you needed to choose between different options based on colors. And that was the only puzzle in the entire game that was also timed. And I found it kinda difficult to differentiate between the colors in the short amount of time that was available. And that was annoying, because at that point the reason I wasn't progressing was not that I couldn't figure out the logic of the puzzle, but that I just mixed up the two colors and clicked the wrong one. I did manage to solve it eventually, but it did take some trial and error, and this did lead me away from the right solution a few times. Another disadvantage of this game is that it's pretty short, which makes sense because it's not easy to come up with a good story and good, interesting puzzles to go with it. First, I believe that because it's a story-based game, it is going to have zero replayability. But actually that's not the case, and I will talk about it why it's not the case in a moment. But first of all, I feel like I need to stop right here and give you guys a spoiler warning, because I will talk about the end of the game and the end of the story. So if based on what you have seen you are interested in the game, then go check it out now and then come back later to watch the rest of the video. There is a link in the description to the game. Or if you are not sure about it yet, you can go watch my other video, because in that one I talk about the first and the second puzzle in a little more detail, and maybe that will help you get a better idea on what the game is like. And now let's get back to the story. So Kai keeps adventuring. he sees many interesting places, many beautiful places, many weird places, and we also solve many interesting puzzles. And in the end, he finally gets to the castle. But it's not all well and good yet, because evil shadow guy appears, and Kai has to fight him. Of course, with our help, he defeats the evil shadow guy, but then in the end he decides that evil shadow guy is not so evil after all, and they go into the castle together. And there they find a mirror, and Kai sees an older version of himself in the mirror, and then he wakes up, because the whole thing has just been a dream that Kai had when he fell asleep on a mountain of paperwork. And he realizes that this office job that he has is just holding him back, the way the treasure chest that was chained to him was just holding him back, and it keeps him from living his best life. So he quits, and he goes on to... we don't actually learn what he goes on to do. I will return to this point a bit later. But first let me tell you what I like about this ending. And the first thing is that even though the whole game's story has been a dream, it wasn't meaningless, because it made Kai realize something that prompted him to take an action in his real life. I also found that there were some pretty smart metaphors in the entire game. Basically the whole thing was the metaphor for life and office work, and the whole story itself was consistent with the message. This is where the replayability comes back, because normally you wouldn't replay a story-based game. But in the case of Fate of Kai, I actually wanted to replay it after seeing this ending, because I knew that it will put a lot of things into a different perspective, which makes it more interesting even a second time. And now let's talk about some things that I didn't like so much or were a little bit weird to me. And the first one is that Kai just gets up and leaves. And that seems a little reckless. I mean, he did that based on a weird dream. On the other hand, he could have been considering quitting for a while. I know that sometimes if you have a boring job that you are not happy with, then you still do it for a while, and at some point something just snaps and you decide to quit, because that's the last drop. But yeah, I'm just a bit worried for Kai. I mean, we don't know if he needs to support himself, whether or not he has money saved up, what's he gonna do now. Like, we never learn what his aspirations are. Like, we know that he doesn't want to do this boring office job, but we don't know what he wants to do. But I guess that's left up to the player's interpretation. I personally like to think that he moves to a tropical island and starts farming pineapples. See you in the next video.